Hoş geldin Simge Hocam.
Merhabalar hocam, nasılsınız?
Sağ olun hocam. İyiyiz, süper. Enerjik hala devam etmeye çalışıyoruz.
Evet, süper, çok sevindim çünkü artık sonuncusu. O da bana rastladı diyelim. Aslında ben istemiştim tabii. Çünkü 15 tatil olacağını açıkçası bilmiyordum. Dolayısıyla derslere göre ayarlamıştım. Ben tabii hiç tatil nosyonu bu aralar, yani bu sene özellikle son 2 senedir böyle bir konsept olarak da olmadığı için dolayısıyla onu şey yapamadım ama güzel de oldu.
Katıldınız en azından. Diğer session'lara da iyi oldu hocam.
2 tanesini kaçırdım, o yüzden özeti belki sonda siz ekleyebilirsiniz hocam. Böyle bir Day 2 özeti de yaptım. Day 1 and Day 2.
O süpersiniz. Biraz bekleyelim birkaç dakika daha. Ondan sonra başlarız.
Tamam, okey.
Hocam beklerken bir şey sorabilir miyim?
Buyurun.
Şunu soracağım. Öncelikle Simge hocama.
Buyurun hocam.
Neden
Pardon,
böyle bir çalışma yapmaya gerek duydunuz? Benim tez konuma biraz yakın da merak ettim.
Öyle mi?
Evet.
Evet, açıkçası şeyden sonra hangi aydı? Ya Temmuz ya Ağustos, Yeditepe Üniversitesi'nde aslında dünya çapında bir testimci Hüseyin Faredi, o zaman kesin ismini bilirsiniz. Assessment, çünkü artık specialist, USLA Üniversitesi'nden geliyor Yeditepe'ye. Ben de doktoramı orada yapıyorum. Aslında o assessment task üzerine yaptı, fakat bağlantı koptuğu için gerisini duyamadık ve PowerPoint'lerin de bir kısmını bize gönderdi. Gürkan Hoca ile de aslına bakarsanız ben kendi doktora tezimden Intercultural Communicative Competence ile ilgili bir şey yapmayı planladım. Fakat daha sonra Gürkan Hoca dedi ki bana, hocam dedi, yani biraz daha böyle hands-on experience, hani daha teorik değil de dedi, daha pratik şeyler, ben acaba böyle bir konu seçebilir misiniz dedi. Hemen aklıma geldi, yani o konu çok ilgimi çekmişti benim. Learning Oriented Assessment. Tabii sizin test çalışmanız olduğunu duymak benim için çok önemli, çünkü 2000'li yıllarda aslına bakarsanız bu kavram daha çok tartışılıyor.
Ben 2008'de New York TESOL'a gittim. Bununla ilgili sunum yaptım açıkçası.
Evet.
Yani yanlış
size
anlamasın kimse. O zaman şeydim, graduate student'tım ve graduate student'ta TESOL'da plenary speaker olarak davet edildim.
Evet hocam.
Çok enteresan, yani sizin görüşmenizi...
Hiç haberim yok. Evet, inanın hiç haberim yok. O zaman dinleyiciler şeyi bilsin, birbirimizden hiç haberimiz yok, kopya çekmeyizin, pırlayıcınızın yok. Ama tabii sizin o yıllarda yapmanız çok daha değerli bana kalırsa. Yani bu Covid-19 sürecinde biraz daha ön plana çıktı gibi düşünüyorum. Jose Faredi'nin o şeyinden sonra, ama asıl ortaya çıkmadı. 2000'ler bakın. 2005, 2006
evet hocam,
değil mi?
İşte ben de 2008'de TESOL, New York TESOL'daydım.
Harika. Evet hocam, harika. Yani tebrik ederim.
O zaman Penny gelip benimle görüşmüştü. Çok böyle elim ayağım titremişti açıkçası. Bunu nasıl yaptınız, nereden aklınıza geldi diye, ve ben o sırada graduate student olduğum için hani bir de şey gönderdim, böyle bir
online instruction'da mı?
Efendim?
Online instruction'a mı entegre ettiniz?
Online instruction artı professional development'la birleştirdim hocam.
Harika, tabii çok faktör var orada. Ben çalışmanızı publish ettiniz değil mi? Çok okumak isterim hocam. Çok heyecanlandım ben şu anda. Tabii çok heyecanlandım.
Tamam hocam, ben gönderirim size.
Hocam ben
çok sevinirim.
İletişimlerinizi sağlarım, mail adreslerinizi.
Tamam.
O şekilde
zaman almak istemem. Sağ olun Simge hocam.
Tamam, çok teşekkürler. Pardon.
Simge hocam,
ben notumu da alıyorum.
Aynen, ben de not aldım size, hani sonra mail adreslerinizi. Simge hocam size yollarım Aslı hocanın mail adresini. Bu şekilde
Gürkan hocam, bakmayın, hani hocamı da yani yazdıklarından tanıdığım için biraz zamanınızı aldım. Kusura bakmayın.
Yok, o yüzden demedim. Sonrasında hocam zaten hani
Tamam.
daha rahat hani iletişimde tekrar olabilirsiniz diye. Sorun yok hocam.
Anlaştık.
Zaten henüz başlamadık. Birazdan başlarız. Hatta yavaştan başlayabiliriz.
Tamam.
Evet. Daha sonrasında tekrardan irtibata geçip daha derinlemesine konuşabilirsiniz diye. O yüzden söyledim yani. Yoksa problem yok hocam. All right. So, Simge hocam, how do you feel about it? Shall we start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, good afternoon again, everyone. And this is the last session of our two-day event. And the speaker is Simge Subaşı, and she will talk about saying goodbye to our event, Hidden Dynamics in EFL, and welcoming.
Yeah, I will explain it to you.
Assessment. Okay, so
I will.
Simge Subaşı has worked in different institutions and has taught English for quite a long time, and she's obtaining her PhD degree at Yeditepe University again, and she's now working at Fenerbahçe University. So, Simge hocam, welcome, and the floor is yours, of course. So.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, I'm
terribly sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay. Can I also? I'm so sorry. Can I also interrupt you?
Intriguing as yours. So, thank you for just sending this intriguing, session. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, hocam. You're welcome. By the way, I would really love to get you to interrupt me whenever you like. Whether you can use, if you don't like to turn on your computer and talk, you can also use the comment box. But rather than that, I would really prefer talk to you now here, turning on our cameras if it's possible. Because
I don't want to steal my colleagues' time, so we'll meet you later on. Thank you.
Hocam, it's okay. This is the last session. So I hope Gürkan Hoca can give us more time.
Last but should never be long. I mean, never ever. Okay, I know
okay.
The last one, but okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to talk about why I put this title for this last session related to COVID-19 pandemic plus online instruction later on. But mainly, actually, I will be talking about the principles of learning-oriented assessments. So I put the bio here, but very briefly, I would like to talk about myself. So there are two, I think, Tarhan Private School graduates here. So it was nice to know that there is still, we have the chance to talk to each other as Tarhan graduates, because it's one of the private schools founded in Turkey. My BA, I graduated from Yeditepe University English Language. I had my MA degree in the same department at the same university. And my PhD journey started in 2010 and still continues. Why? Because I took 4 undergraduate courses, 10 MA courses, and 10 PhD courses before I took comprehensive exam. Because my aim was not to be an academician in short time, but I just want, to become a good researcher. And in terms of professional development, actually, that was my first step in PhD journey. So that's why it took for a long time. Now I'm 42. I'm working on my thesis, and probably I will finish it in June and become a doctor. But I feel that I learned really a lot from my professors and other researchers, not only in Turkey but overseas. And I started teaching at state schools actually, either in secondary school or primary school for 3 years. And then I started to work with those schools, tech schools, med schools, and I was just an ordinary, English teacher, and I was offered other positions such as coordinator of foreign teachers, head of foreign languages department in different private schools, and for the last, I think, 14 years, I have offered undergraduate courses, especially at Yeditepe University for the last 10 years, in the Department of English Language Teaching, Interpreting, Translating and Interpreting Studies Department, Turkish Language and Literature Teaching Department, department students, such as world literature, terminology, academic reading, academic writing, oral communication, pedagogy for senior students, for example, in ELT department. I also worked at different universities as well, such as Medipol University. I know Didem Hoca, for example. I saw her name yesterday, day 1 and day 2 in the morning. So I know her from Medipol University. I worked there for 2 years at Işık University. And now I'm also working at Fenerbahçe University. I became the member of the team this year, the Foreign Languages Department Prep School program, actually. And before actually PhD, I got my self-taught trained trainers for twice. Why twice? Because in one of the, in the first time, I was a simultaneous translator there. And now I am working on my PhD thesis, titled as Intercultural Communication Beliefs of EFL Learners in Turkish Context. And I have 2 cats. I'm living with them. In my free time, I prefer to play with my cats, spend time with them, and play the guitar and sing songs. So for the purpose of this presentation, first, I will be talking about the conceptual basis, the roots of learning-oriented assessment, and then for example, Turgut just yesterday's presentation, he also talked about formative and summative assessment. So I will be a little bit talking about the decline of summative and formative assessment, then the reasons why learning-oriented assessment emerged in 2000, 2005, 2002, and so forth. And there are more principles, actually, of LOA. I will be talking about only 3 core principles of it, such as the assessment tasks as learning tasks, student involvement in assessment, feedback as feed-forward, especially actually in face-to-face education. LOA is important, but I think in online instruction, as teachers, we need to attach more importance to LOA. Why? Because as Turgut Hoca compared and contrasted the characteristics of face-to-face education and online education, so in that sense, some of the students may be reluctant in taking active involvement and participation on online platforms. So in that sense, I thought that topic would be important for today's pandemic. And lastly, I will be talking about some tips for teachers, and I'll ask you some further suggestions for LOA for online instruction, especially. And I'll wrap up for this session, and plus to make your job easy, I will wrap up for day 1 and day 2 for each instructor's presentation. Important notes. So conceptual basis. So the roots of LOA is found actually in challenges. associated with the terms and concepts and practice of formative assessment. And I'm sure everybody is familiar with formative assessment. Why? Because we all believe that the process is important in evaluating the students' achievement, their progress, and so forth. So, though using the same term, formative assessment, there are different views in the literature. So, some views, for example, it mainly involves formal structured process, or a more constructivist orientation, for example, as mainly informal. And some thought it was good for teaching, but brings extra work on the part of the teachers. And some students may view some kinds of formative assessment as extra work that bring no mark. Because we all know that, unfortunately, today's student profile is more grade oriented. And David Carlos, for example, coined the term learning-oriented assessment to avoid confusions about formative assessment processes, and decided to become the principal investigator of a project that searched to enhance the learning elements of assessment. So, what do you think? What characterizes learning-oriented assessment? What do you think? Do you have any ideas? Okay, we can talk about it later.
Can we put the answers? Can we put the answers in the chat? And write them down.
In the chat box. Where is it? More chat. Sorry, I'm checking now. Learning autonomy, yes. All right. Thank you very much. Yes. To sustain learner autonomy. I definitely agree with you. This is the ultimate goal. Why? Because we are not only interested in getting students to have to achieve short-term goals, but also lifelong, long-term goals for their further future work. So, learning elements and differentiated learning, yes, definitely I agree. Learning elements are emphasized and put into practice while engaged active student involvement, rather than highlighting the procedures of its measurement aspects. Oops, why can't I continue? Okay. And the decline of formative versus summative assessment. So what are the constraints of summative versus formative assessment? What do you think? I will check the chat. If you have any ideas, I would be glad to hear those. Oh. For summative assessment, what you think, or for example, the limitations of formative assessment as well. Large classes, yes, the number of the students are important, because in prep schools, unfortunately, we don't have 10 students or 12 students. At least we have 19, 17, 20 students, more than that, 25 students, 27 students. Product-oriented, yes, I agree with you, unfortunately. Oh my God, 38, oh my God. Hocam, yani, Yani, I hope God will help you in that sense. Really, it's difficult, but you can do more. You can distribute different rules for the students. We can talk about that later on. Okay, syllabus and pacing constraint. Yes, definitely pacing, and so that we have a tight schedule. 45 essays. Yes. Okay. So, oops, let me continue. For summative assessment, as an example, some researchers think that it fails to explain the factors found in the complexity of learning, because learning is a complex issue, and formative assessment also said to be in decline, and also it's not achieving its potential for some of the researchers. And generally, both assessment tasks are criticized due to what? Increasing stimulating memorization, unfortunately. That is why it's product-oriented. It's product-oriented somehow. Encouraging surface approaches, unfortunately. I mean, because of such demanding issues, time limitation, time constraints, the teachers have to somehow have the surface approaches to learning, may also fail to encourage lifelong learning, namely fail to automatize the ability to self-evaluate, to transform it into a skill. I mean, you know that there's a difference between ability and skill. Everybody is born with a talent and an ability. But our job is to get the student as many exposures as possible through practice, having a regular and systematic manner to transform such ability into a skill, an automatized skill. If the ability is automatized, we know that it becomes a skill. So what about feedback? So we provide feedback, right, the teachers. So often ineffective. It is provided too late, unfortunately, not on the spot. For example, we ask students to write a composition for B1, B2, A1, A2, a paragraph, and because of the number of the students, we have the chance to give them feedback 2 days later, 1 week later, 2 weeks later, maybe. So it becomes too late for learners to get them use it productively. So how can teachers make it effective? Finding class writing, when to provide feedback, if possible, on the spot. That's it. I remember last modules, B1 class, we have a task, written production performance task. We give, for example, 70 minutes to write 2 body paragraphs. I tried it, actually, and I talked to the coordinator, and on the same day, I provided them written and oral feedback for 70 students. It lasted 5 hours, but in the end, they wrote their final draft, sent it to me. It was beneficial, yes. They learned a lot, yes. On the part of the teacher, oh my God, I had a terrible headache. Actually, this is the reality. So feedback is more beneficial and constructive when it includes iterative cycles. This is important, going back and forth. So frequent reviews and revisions are needed in that sense. What are the other problems of assessment? Well, it is about several things at once, such as, for example, grading, learning at the same time, evaluating learning achievements at the same time, standards that involve comparisons between individuals, thus communicate explicit and hidden messages, hidden dynamics in foreign language education, unfortunately. So, it brings tension among students and teachers as well. However, assessment itself still indeed important, but how can it be more effective? How it can enhance and increase student learning, thus challenge grade score-oriented mentality of students. This is important. Learning aspects of assessment should be brought into the procedures and processes, and it's not very difficult. Why and how, actually, not how and why, but why and how. If the assessment talks, procedures and processes sustain student involvement, that's important, so that the student may develop a better and deep understanding of the learning goals for long-term course of a study or further studies, as you also mentioned here, and of learning objectives for short-term, a session or 1 week class orientation, and should lead to automatized self-evaluation skills or to evaluative expertise among students. So by including such assessment tasks, activities, the transparency of the assessment procedures and processes and prep program standards and requirements will be enhanced. I tried to listen to each, day 1 and day 2 actually sessions, and I've learned that the common word was transparency, number 1, thus raising awareness in students. So that is why the session also brings the understanding of making assessment procedures, processes, criteria, everything, the tasks, activities, crystal clear for the students. Yani, it doesn't mean that, okay, introducing, for example, writing assessment criteria, the rubric, going over every statement in the skills. No,
forming them together with the students, making changes with the students. So it shouldn't be only prepared by instructors coming together, working together, debriefing together, coming to a common point, or prepared by the testing department only. Debrief with the students as well. So also application procedures should get students challenged and question their thinking habits. If that is sustained, then they can have the opportunity to deconstruct first and then reconstruct, de-shape and reshape their approaches and attitudes of dealing with a given task. So supported with teacher and student feedback together, then students will be able to feed forward such feedback for their further tasks and future work, integrate their newly learned knowledge into different task variations. Oops, there's a spelling mistake. Feedback itself may not always lead to learning. What might be the reasons for that? Actually, I just talked about that. So, if it doesn't enhance student monitoring their own progress, what will likely happen? No real learning will take place, of course, right? So, general learners may not be initially, actually, willing to welcome, we all know that, and respond to such innovative and challenging new thought-provoking assessment tasks because it will be cognitively demanding. But if the teacher can attract the attention by asking questions and get the students to question their own thinking habits, then we can cultivate, find a little, crack in their minds and go into there. So that the teacher can help the students to leave their comfort zone, as Burjoja talked about it, right? Yesterday. As long as their awareness is raised to understand such tasks, rationale, and benefits. Again, I think all the presenters in day 2 talked about that, and I do agree with that. So, what are the core principles of learning-oriented assessment? So, it can be sustained through the following key elements, which can hardly be applied discretely due to its core principles. Number 1, level appropriate tasks are important. Student involvement in assessment, as I just mentioned, and feedback, which can be productively implemented and integrated upon. So, principle 1, assessment tasks as learning tasks. What does that mean? The tasks need to be designed and developed to provoke meaningful, sound learning practices among students. Also in this COVID-19 pandemic online instruction, online platforms that we're using are essential, stimulating student attendance. More than that, participation, active participation. So more beneficial if they mirror, remember the first presentation? Real world applications, such as sounds in computer games of the subject matter. The purpose needs to spread attention across a period of study. 3 or 4 models. Let's think about our own prep school context. So in online instruction as an example. And embrace the desired learning outcomes. Principle 2. Student involvement in assessment as peer and self-evaluators. So assessment tasks need to involve students, active student participation in engaging the criteria. So we shouldn't come together with only the instructors or the experts, the specialists. No, we should also involve the students as well. Form the criteria together with the students. So engaging the quality of students' own and their peers' performances as well, to get students become evaluation experts, peer or self-evaluators. Principle 3, feedback as feed forward. What does that mean? Timely feedback
need to be provided on the spot. I know that, yes, it's challenging and tiring sometimes, but we may also share the responsibility with one of our colleagues. I mean, last module, it was my fault not to ask any help from the other supporting teacher of that B1 level course, because unfortunately, I thought, I'm a very good, feedback provider. I'm the best. No, I should do. Oh, come on. I mean, everybody is good. Every single teacher has different, precious, sparkling, characteristics in teaching. So we need to complement each other in that sense. And forward-looking, including anticipated student understanding and or misunderstandings in order to stimulate recent, current, and further learning. So such a piece of feedback can be productively acted upon. Now, those three key strengths are intended to work together in harmony, complementing each other, rather than, leaving them in isolation. Students making use of recently received feedback can be sustained through an awareness of the assessment, procedures, criteria, tasks, processes, so that students will have the opportunity to monitor their own progress through knowing the established standards and through practicing actually the established standards. So students at first may seem reluctant, yes, to take active role in such procedures, since they will be expected no longer knowledge transmitters, number one, because unfortunately, in Turkish context, students are exposed to, unfortunately, more of memorizing the information. That is why their self-perception as a student is to transmit knowledge, no, to transform knowledge. This is, as educators, we are not only teachers, we are educators. Our laboratory is human beings, different worlds, different thinking habit students. So in that sense, our job is difficult, not difficult, challenging. So we love to deal with such challenges. This is how I perceive my job. It's more than a job for me. It is the way I perceive the life. Yani teaching does not stop at the university, does not only limited to the walls of university campus. No, it's outside. In my private life, for example, it also includes my private life. So in that sense, learning-oriented assessment of potential benefits, I think, need to be made crystal clear, transparent to the students. And, Hocam, how many minutes do I have?
Normally 15 minutes, but we started kind of a little bit late, 5 minutes late, so we can say 20 minutes.
Oh, that's good. Then, oh my God, I was rushing. I'm so sorry, because before the presentation, I planned to ask many questions and interact with our lovely and precious instructors. So now, based on your first knowledge, experience, and this small presentation, I know that it's very tight. I would love to go into detail, but because it's just one-shot session, I didn't have the chance to do it. So now I'd like to talk to you. You can write in the comment box, or I would love to have you to talk face-to-face here. So what are your suggestions? What can be the tips for teachers in the light of the three core principles of learning-oriented assessment? What do you think? How can we include, students to form together the criteria for the rubrics, for the written production performance tasks, whether this is a body paragraph writing, introduction writing, conclusion, or a compact, full composition, or an oral presentation. So what do you think? Which activities we can include? So did you write something here? Oops. Any ideas? Okay.
I think first of all, learners should be involved, hocam, in that process. So sometimes, like when we prepare like rubrics for assessment, for assessing writing or speaking, etc., we just work together with our colleagues or with our let's say administrations, and we work together as teachers, and we prepare, let's say, some assessment tools. But as you said as well, so students, we sometimes neglect them. We forget them to incorporate into this process. I mean, so in the class, for example, for writings, we can ask our students to come up with their own rubrics or checklists, for example, and we can just do this in time, of course, not in a few days, in a few hours. For example, one of my colleagues, we talked to her, I think it was 2 days ago, and she told me that her director in her institution told her to prepare a kind of rubric for writing, I think, in just 1 or 2 days. And I said, wow, how come? It's not possible. I mean, you need to read the literature, you need to work on that, you need to work with colleagues, students as well. So sometimes we forget about these things, and we said, okay, so in a few minutes, in a few days or hours, assessment rubrics should be ready. So we sometimes forget about the quality and we care for the quantity, unfortunately.
That's a very important point, Gürkan Hocam. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Plus, I think it's not only for the assessment tasks, assessment rubrics, criteria, and so forth, but also I think we should involve. I mean, everybody knows about that. Unfortunately, in our country or in some parts of the world, because of the rush, because of the demanding syllabus curriculum, the stress that is put on the teachers by the administrators, I can really understand that. Or the marketing strategies also put lots of stress on teachers as well. I mean, this is the reality. This is the hidden dynamics in, for me, in foreign language education, not these ones. I mean, we can. It's not very difficult to make clear, crystal, the criteria or material development, for example. We need to have student involvement in material development as well, curriculum design as well, syllabus design as well, even the weekly agenda. I mean, the students should take active involvement in every single kind of step in foreign language education.
Hocam,
so that
something.
Sure, please interrupt. Please.
But when I was presenting my, I was presenting in New York, and many people asked me, how do you not accept, like, for example, there was not code or stuff like that. There was not, present then, and
it's technological supplementary materials. You mean?
Yeah.
Right.
And, I was like criticized. I didn't accept that. Like, for example, including like, I don't know, some of the let's say I cannot remember, but for example, taking help.
Hocam, think about. No, you don't have to remember anything, Hocam. I'm sure you have a great experience you have insightful skills. Think about now your immediate teaching context, so that you can give an example.
For example, my research was like you cannot take anything from the internet. So this is not a professional development like Dave's ESL Cafe, etc. So we need to, you know, be prolific and search about everything. I don't know if it is possible. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. What I do, for example, is that when the department also wants me to, on the very first day of the module, for example, to introduce students the rubrics, as an example. From the previous, for example, I asked the other instructors to send me their previous written productions. I'm talking about writing class, as an example. Let's say I will introduce the writing criteria, the rubric to the students. Based on the student work, by asking questions, what do you think about the content and ideas? Let's go, this and that, and then comparing the statements that I found in that skill in B1 rubric, as an example, writing rubric. The students exchange their ideas, and I make some changes in that rubric prepared by our testing and curriculum unit, as an example. Or coming to, for example, reading, we have criteria, right? I always try to get the students to justify their answers. Let's say it's a multiple choice test. Hocam, işte the answer is T. I mean, I see that most of the instructors on especially online platforms say that, oh, that's great, okay, what about number 2? No, just a sec. Why C? Why not B? Why not A? Why not D? Which line? Justify your answer, please. Which line? What does it say? If you need to read between the lines, why? How can you come to such a thesis, as an example? So how do we achieve standardization then, or do we have to have one? Yes, standardization is another dimension in foreign language education. Still, we can have standardization because in standardization process, there is debriefing. For example, our weekly meetings, I always share what I do, what I want to do, and we debrief together with the other instructors, so we benefit from each other, so that we are trying to make sure that we are doing not the same. It's almost impossible. Come on, there's even the teacher personality identity factor there. But we are trying to make sure that we are doing similar activities with the students to make sure that we sustain student involvement in forming, for example, informing the criteria, the rubrics. That's what I try to mean. That all, I believe we, okay, thank you very much. So I'll continue. Oops, 1 minute, okay. So, the tips for the teachers. Let's, I mean, the teachers, it might be really better and beneficial for the teachers to get students summarize the grade-related criteria in their own words. That's number 1, as an example. Number 2, give students various opportunities to take active involvement in generating the criteria. That's what we talked about, actually, how. Get students to deconstruct the discourse of assessment criteria. Meta discourse now comes on the scene. That's also important. And thus help them to deconstruct it, to help them achieve a deeper understanding of the dimensions, scales, and quality of assessment. Oops. And to formulate their own self-evaluation through bringing the stated criteria, newly formed co-constructed criteria, and their own self-perceptions. Even the preconceived evaluations, what does that mean? Even if they have never experienced self-evaluation before, they have an idea here. It is called preconceived evaluation. They heard it or saw it somewhere. It's a tacit knowledge here. Okay, so together, since they have high expectations, unfortunately, in our context, due to various factors such as high school achievements and grades. I mean, I know that many high school teachers say that, oh, very good. No, it's average. Yani, there are some points which are needed to be improved. They don't say that, oh, very good. No, it's not very good. I'm sorry. So being realistic is also important in that sense, having a positive attitude, of course. And co-construct feedback, what does that mean? Through dialogue, through negotiating meaning together with the student as a whole class, based on previous student work. That's also important. Tabii ki not showing them the name of the student. And to justify their evaluations and positions, that's also important. And involves strategy, strategy training. Strategy training is important. For example, you're doing, reading comprehension activity. So actually, you somehow strategy train the students. Why not A? Why not C? What is your strategy? For example, it's a listening comprehension test. Why did you give that answer? Why? Why not? So that you also get students to form their own criteria as well, so that you can also make use of such criteria for your own rubric as well, or criteria as well. And promote evaluative expertise in that sense, on a regular and systematic manner. That's also important. There should be a continuity. There should be links among each other, not isolated, but complementary. It should be so that they can complement each other. And encourage students to engage actively with the required criteria, yes, and self-monitor their own work in progress. And work together. Get students to work together on a student sample work, and we said. Focusing on criteria is less effective than analyzing a sample student work. That's also important. So also make changes on the criteria with the students, while analyzing the work of our students based on, again, the criteria, but enrich the criteria together with the students. So encourage multiple drafting, as we all know, whether this is written or oral task, and provide timely written and oral feedback, while if possible, limiting teacher-led feedback in that sense, or else students will likely become dependent, as we all know, on the support of the teacher. And feed forward from the first work to the second one, especially for drafted assignments, by encouraging student engagement and action again. And it might be better to remember that learning-oriented assessment can be applied to either summative task. Doesn't mean that only. Yes, it might hold some negative aspects, but the way you establish it is important. So it should be, as long as it is designed as assessment tasks, as learning tasks. And make assessment criteria transparent in that sense as much as possible, and whenever possible, why? To increase student awareness. Okay, so that is why here was my title for Day 2 Law session. Bye-bye loneliness. The students shouldn't feel lonely and get into lots of stress. And teachers, there is also a message for the teachers, for myself, for everybody. I mean, we shouldn't be alone. Social constructivism in that sense is really important. Social, cultural learning and teaching environment is important in that sense. In that sense, actually, I just wanted to say goodbye hidden dynamics in foreign language education. Everything should be crystal clear right at the beginning. So hello, learning-oriented assessment for online instruction in COVID-19 pandemic period. So to wrap up very quickly for this session, so we talked about first the conceptual basis, the roots of language-oriented assessment, and the decline of formative versus summative assessment very briefly, unfortunately. 3 core principles of learning-oriented assessment in terms of assessment tasks as learning tasks.
Number 2, student active involvement in assessment. Number 3, feedback on the spot if possible, as feed forward and building linkages among each feedback and co-constructing feedback together as a whole class with the students. And we talked about some tips for the teachers. So wrap up for day 1 and 2. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, this is important, I guess, for day 2. Well, we have learned that, dear colleagues, we need to integrate playing computer games into curriculum, such as Witcher, for all levels. Remember, the presenter was an A1 Spanish learning and started to play games and build up lots of vocabulary items and got himself be exposed to a reasonable goal to communicate with people. So in that sense, it's important. Authentic target language, a purposeful real-world environment where students will have a real reason to communicate and enrich their vocabulary resources and language use and usage resources as well. Get students to become active participants, online platforms, comparing and contrasting the situations, less into face-to-face instruction. That's also important. And integrate implicit and explicit English as a lingua franca activities, talks, materials to raise awareness towards language variations, not mistakes. So we may use voice corpus as an example and get students decrease
Thank you.
the amount.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Hocam. You're welcome, Hocam. Get students decrease the amount of procrastination through using Pomodoro technique in regular and systematic manner by getting oneself work on a task first 25 minutes and then 5-minute break. After 4 Pomodoro sessions, actually I forget the details, but this still I hope will work. And after 4 Pomodoro sessions, give 15-minute break. Get students familiarized with stop, continue, stop model. And I remember one of our lovely instructors shared a website address with us that worked well for her classes. So I also wanted to share it with you. And teacherlearn.com, I think Burcu Hoca shared it with us. Thank you very much, and I appreciate lots of upcoming new information for those lovely experienced presenters and benefit from your experience as precious teachers. I missed it. I'm so sorry. It was the second session today, day 2. Integrate explicit meta discourse talks into writing classes to get students point topic shifts as an example. Write a stance and identity towards the content and the reader as well. Raise awareness how to become persuasive, again as an example. And signal writer's message. Because, as Erdem Hoca said, it is high time the teachers looked at their interactional meanings and interactive choices as well. So in that sense, integrate data-driven learning corpus can be used under the supervision of teachers for language learning purposes. We can use 2 examples were given in that presentation, as you may remember, Sketch Engine and Manchester Phrase Bank. Not today. I'm really excited. That is why my heart, functions very fast. That is why when I calm down tomorrow, I will check out the job. I'm so sorry. So integrate various strategies and activities into course lesson plans to increase cultural uptake in students and raise cultural awareness while considering language and culture inseparable, not isolated from each other. I do agree with that. And
kendime torpili geçmiş gibi oldum. Yani hocam, it's like hani attaching more importance to my
It seems like that, hocam. This whole page, a whole slide.
I realize that. I'm really sorry. It's a subconscious where it's like this. Subconscious. And also, lastly, transform assessment tasks into learning tasks. Provide as many opportunities as possible for student involvement in assessment as peer self-evaluators, and provide students with many on-the-spot and continuous related links, one after the other feedback as feed-forward, as especially this COVID-19 pandemic online instruction requires teachers to be more transparent to make the hidden dynamics of foreign language education crystal clear on the part of the students in front of a computer screen, more active and conscious foreign language learning participants who have a raised awareness for either short-term goals or lifelong goals for a satisfying future. So I hope that you have benefited from this presentation. And I hope you're not sleeping like those two guys, two little researchers. Thank you very much.
It was great.
And also, I also provided some resources here. If you're interested, now I'm going to check the.
So, if we have any question, anything that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I didn't have the chance to check those. Just a sec, hocam. I'm seriously okay. Rebecca offered an idea. Can we hear that? Very quickly, instructor involvement. I never became editor with involvement by the. All right. Distributing. We have different works. Breaks. I did. Okay. Okay. Well. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you. I really appreciate your participation and interaction, differentiate learning. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Hocam, thank you. Let's have a picture all together, if you like, and before ending the session. So let me see you again, smiling, full of energy faces. All right.
I hope I didn't make people tired.
No. 1, 2, 3, cheese. All right. Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So
thank you very much. And sorry,
yes,
can I please interrupt? I'd like to first thank you, Kanaja. I'd like to first thank you, Kanaja, for organizing this really beneficial event, and I'm sure he really worked a lot and put lots of effort and energy and time to even organize such 2-day event. But I'm sure there were lots of difficulties, challenges. Let's say challenges. So thank you very much. And I myself, although as a presenter, I benefited a lot from those 2 days presentations. So thank you very much. Plus, thank you for each instructor to you for your highly valuable, thought-provoking ideas. And the website that you provided, I will check them as soon as possible. So I'm honored to be with you, and I hope to gather sometime later in the future. Thank you very much.
Hopefully, hocam. So after, if the pandemic is over, hopefully we'll come again. Thanks a lot, Simge.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.
So let's meet again for the closure at 3, let's say 20, right? Let's make it 3:20. Okay. So
we're not going anywhere, right?
We're going to come together with our instructors, the YDY members, hocam. But if you like, you can join, of course.
Gürkan, I would like to thank you very much, really. I took some notes here. I mean, I have a lot of nice takeaway messages from every session, the practical tips for teachers were great, really. I would like to thank you a lot for that.
Thank you hocam. We'll meet again later hopefully if you come.
Okay.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Simge hocam, thank you.
Gürkan hocam, we're not going anywhere, right? I mean, we will use the same link. I mean, should I leave the session or we will continue from here?
We'll just come together hocam with our YDY instructors. I mean, ITU instructors, and there will be a raffle for them. So your session is over.
We will not be included.
No, but if
No,
you like...
I understand.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Why not?
Okay, thanks a lot again for your contributions. So hopefully we'll meet again later.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
You.
Everybody have a nice teaching. Have nice teaching years.
Thank you. That was good.
Bye bye. Thank you. You're welcome.